Hi guys, my name is Bobby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you my January wrap up. Now, as you can already tell, I'm sick. I actually have COVID. So I've already filmed this once. I filmed it 2 days ago. Today's Friday. I filmed it on Wednesday and I lost all the footage. I went to go put it on my computer. My computer didn't recognize that the video even existed. And then I tried editing part of it on my phone and then try to make the file smaller because it was an hour of footage and it didn't like it. And then it just disappeared. So I'm doing this again, which I'm not happy about because I already spent an hour and a half filming it before. So to preface, this is going to probably be like chunky because I'm going to film like 20 minutes or so, stop, take the footage, put it on my computer, and then start again so that this doesn't happen again because I'm not filming this a fucking third time. Second of all, yes, I'm sick and I know I sound like shit, but this is really the only time I can film because next week my husband is off for most of the week because they're doing renovations where he works, so he's not working. We're busy, like my Danielle's birthday's next week, my husband's birthday's right after that. We have stuff going on, Danielle starting basketball, all the shit. So I just won't have time. So I just need to get this filmed again. But yes, I have COVID. Danielle brought it home. We're fine. Matt and Lucas have not gotten sick. Danielle brought it home last weekend. She tested positive on Sunday. The rest of us were negative. Monday, I started showing symptoms. I ended up with a really high fever after getting home from work. So that was on Monday. Today is now Friday. I have one more day off tomorrow that I have to stay home, and then Sunday I can go back to work. I'm fine. The symptoms were pretty mild for the most part. All of us are vaccinated except for Lucas. So we're fine. Like, Matt didn't get it at all. We just stayed sequestered in our rooms. Danielle and I did. Yeah, it started out like I seriously had like a symptom a day. It was really weird. So yesterday and today, like, I'm just in this, it feels like I have a really bad head cold. Everything is in my sinuses. I sound like shit. I can't breathe. Well, I can breathe, but I can't smell or taste. And that's not because of the COVID. It's because of the congestion, because when I do eat something, I can taste it. It's the congestion, like, stuff gets through. So I apologize if there's like a lot of cuts from either me coughing, needing a drink, having to blow my nose, whatever, and to move footage. I apologize ahead of time. I also apologize if I can't form a clear thought. I'm very foggy headed. I have COVID brain, they say, like, where you just feel really foggy. Comes with being sick. When I filmed 2 days ago, it was just as bad. Also, all of these books that I've read were over a month ago now, almost. Like, well, they are a month ago, some of them. And some of them I don't remember a whole bunch, or I was really struggling to talk about what they were about. So bear with me. Hopefully we can get this done. And it frustrates me because I have 12 things to talk about. 9 books that I finished in 3 DNFs, or no, is it 8? 8 books I finished in 3 DNFs. Maybe it's 11 books. I think it's 11. 11. See, here we go. Either way, I read things in January. So I was excited to talk about them, even though I don't have any 5 stars. It's just, and then my brain can't form thoughts to talk about them. So we're going to try. We're giving this the college try. Second time's the charm, hopefully. We'll just see how this goes. So I'm going to pull up my Goodreads on my tablet because I kind of need to see the order that I read them in and remember things. Because there was some like on ebook or not ebook. Some that I do not own. So I need to be able to look. Everything that I read in the month of January, I listened to on audiobook. I did not read anything physically at all. And I think that's just how my reading's going to go for the time being. And I'm just going to roll with it because audiobooks seem to be the way I consume things now. And we're just going with it. I mean, I finished 8 things in January. So that's a good thing. That's better than I've done in a year, I think. So I'm just going to roll with it. Audiobooks all day long. Like, I have Audible, I have Hoopla, Libby, and Scribd. So I have my library and 2 places to pull from, and then 2 services that I pay for to pull from. And so far I've got a list a mile long. And right now I've got stuff coming in from the library that I have on hold, which that I think is going to be my next read. I've already finished 2 books in February, and then my reading like hit a brick wall when I got sick. Because when I'm sick, I do not read. I'm a zone out, watch TV, and not have to focus or pay attention type of person when I'm sick. But I'm feeling a little bit better today, so I'm going to attempt reading today. We'll see how it goes. Again, now my thoughts are going all over the place. Let's get into the books because I've already been filming for 5 minutes, and I want to get this done. Again, I am so sorry for the way I sound and how, like, bumblefucked this whole video is going to be. So the first book I finished in the month of January is Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. This is the second book I've read by her. I read a book called The Jar of Hearts by her before, and it was okay. One thing I like about her books is that it takes place in Washington, usually in the Seattle area, which of course I'm familiar with because I live in Washington State. So that was kind of fun. This is a story about a husband and wife and how they lost their son in trying to find him. So they are a very rich couple. I don't remember what he does. I don't remember if it's like real estate or something like that. She owns a bunch of salons or whatever. So they're both independently kind of wealthy on their own. They're married. They have one son together, and he is kidnapped from Pike Place Market, which that happens in the very beginning of the book. It's the first chapter. It's almost like a prologue. And then when you're in present day with them, it's been like a year, I think, since he was kidnapped, something like that. This was the first book I read in the very beginning of January, so it was a month ago. They're still trying to navigate life, like they're not connected anymore, like pretty much on the verge of divorce because, you know, they lost their son, and he was with the wife when he was taken, and so the husband, his name is Derek, I can't remember her name, blames her kind of for the loss of their son, and so they're not intimate anymore and shit like that. And the wife has a best friend who's a male. I think they've been friends since college, and so he's really supportive of her and stuff like that. And then stuff starts to happen, like she starts to realize that her husband's having an affair, and you have the woman that he's cheating on with, you get her point of view, and there's other stuff going on there, and it all kind of ties together. This book was good. It was okay. I gave it 4 stars, I believe. It was kind of unbelievable in a way. You didn't really have to suspend your disbelief. I mean, kind of. The way it wrapped up was kind of perfect with a bow a little bit. There wasn't as much conflict at the end that I would have liked, but it wasn't bad. It was very compulsively readable. Like, I just wanted to keep reading it. So that was really good. The audiobook was really good. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. It was more like 3.5, but it was really easy to read and really engaging, and I just kept wanting to pick it up. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. I'd recommend it. I mean, it's fun. It's a fun, fast-paced thriller that's kind of soapy, but it's not anything super special. Like, the twist was pretty easy to figure out. I had it figured out pretty quickly. There's two twists. Well, I guess the one twist pretty much gives up the second twist, but I had it figured out already. Kind of out of order, I guess, but it's not that hard to figure out, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment. So 3.5, 4 stars. Next is the book I DNF'd. This came up as free to borrow right now from my library. I was going through Libby trying to find an audiobook to listen to, and because I didn't want to use my Audible credits, and this was available to listen to, so I was like, okay, I'll give this author another shot, and that's One by One by Ruth Ware. I DNF'd this at 20%. This book was absolutely stupid. First of all, okay, so this book is about a group of people who work for this app. Like, they all created this app and work for this app, and they're going on like a team building retreat to this, like, not a chalet, like is that what it is? Like a cabin in the woods where you go skiing. Like, I do not do snow sports. I don't remember the exact terminology, but like you have to take, is it a gondola? Where you have to take that, where you all the way up in the woods where you sit in it and it's like on a track and it goes out. That's a gondola, right? You take that all the way up into the woods. Like, it's very remote. And they're all going together to, you know, and you're trying to figure out why are they going. And then it's revealed very quickly on that the owner, the CEO of the company wants to sell, or like sell it to somebody or to go public to where everybody who has stock in it, which are everybody who's invited, would get, you know, a huge payout. So in this group of people, you have 2 point of views. You have this lady who works in the chalet or whatever, the cabin where they're at. She works there, her and this other guy, they're the ones running it while these people are staying there. So you get her point of view, and then you get this point of view of one of the people in the group. And she's the reason why I DNF'd it. So this girl is whiny and complaining and just bitchy and just like, what was it? Like all she is all the fucking time. Like she has no spine, no backbone, but it's almost over the top. So spoilers for this book, I'm gonna ruin it. She's the killer. Okay, there's no way, I don't even know how to like describe this. Like so when you're in this girl's head, she's talking about how anxious she is and how much she hates these people and she doesn't even know why she's there. And she used to work for these people and then she left and they invited her on this retreat and she doesn't understand why they've invited her. And the reason they've invited her is because she has a huge or a good majority, I think she has a majority share in this app, because when the app was starting out, they were starting to fail and running out of money. And so she loaned them a whole bunch of money out of her inheritance, I believe, or her savings, something like that. I think it was like $10,000 or $20,000 or something she gave to them to keep going. And then they exploded. So she's got a majority share. So that's why she needs to be there, because if they sell, like she'll benefit from it. But in her brain, like in her monologue and like being in her point of view, she's very whiny. She talks about how anxious she is. She talks about how much she hates these people. She doesn't know why she's there, how scared she is, and how intimidated she is by these people, which I just thought was odd to me. If you're scared of these people or you're intimidated by them, why are you there? So for me, I found that really unbelievable. If you don't like people and you're not, you have no attachment to these people, even if it's, they need to talk to you about something like this, why go and put yourself in the middle of nowhere? So it just didn't seem realistic. And I was like, I can't stand to be in this girl's head anymore. I can't fucking stand it. And so I DNF'd it because the app was super stupid. So the app that they created is pretty much like a Spotify, only you can stalk people on it. So like, let's say Beyonce is on there and she has all these playlists or whatever. And so when she's online and whatever music she's listening to, you would get a notification telling you what Beyonce was listening to. So you pretty much are tracking the music that your favorite celebrities are listening to, which seems really stupid. Like, I don't give a fuck what they're listening to. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. But apparently it's super popular. So that was kind of odd. And then her behavior, and I'm all about being in a killer's head as a POV. Like, that's fun to me. But then don't tell me who the killer is. Like, have it be a POV that we don't know. We're trying to figure out, okay, whose head am I in? Because then you get the killer part of it. Like, this girl, well, at least in the beginning, you can't tell that she's the killer. She's just really obnoxiously annoying. And, I like the POVs where, you're in the killer's head. They're talking about murdering these people, why they hate these people, and you're trying to figure out who in the group it is. That is way better than what this was. This was stupid. This was, no. Mm-mm. And I don't know if I'm going to try Ruth Ware again. I've only read one of her books that I semi-enjoyed, that I gave 3 stars. So I think I might be done with her. I don't know. But yeah, this was a DNF. Next is another book I DNF'd. I have it on ebook. It was a Kindle First Reads book because I have Kindle Unlimited, and that is Bloodline by Jess Laurie. This is one of the horror choices on the Goodreads Choice Awards. Like, it was in the initial. I don't remember how far it made it. And I started it and it was okay, but I started it a while ago and then I just ended up DNFing it because it was on Kindle and I'm listening to audiobooks at the moment, and it kind of didn't really get my interest. It takes place in the 60s. It's a female's point of view. She just got married and they're moving back to her husband's hometown. The hometown is very picture perfect Stepford Wife-esque, and so she's feeling kind of like about it, but I don't know, it just wasn't grabbing me the way I wanted it to, so it's a DNF probably just for now. Okay, the next book that I read was kind of a surprise to me. Again, this was going through Libby and finding an audiobook that was available right now to read, and I actually kind of love this one, and that's Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. This was an amazing audiobook. If you're gonna read it, listen to it on audio. So this tells the story of Wade, this is a futuristic Earth to where the world is kind of desolate. Most people are super, super poor. Like, the gaps between the rich and the poor are astronomical now. Wade lives with his aunt in like these trailer parks where they're like, the trailers are stacked on top of each other, but everybody has well, most everybody has a chance to get away to what they call the Oasis, which is like a virtual reality world where you put on your virtual reality stuff and you like plug into the world and you can do whatever you want in that world. And it's so widespread and world spread that he even goes to school in the Oasis. So he doesn't go to school like in regular time, like you just plug into the Oasis and go there and it still counts. And the Oasis was created by two guys like years prior. One of the guys is still alive, but the main guy has passed away and he hasn't left his fortune to anybody. What he's done is he's put Easter eggs in the Oasis, and if you find and solve all the Easter eggs, whoever does it first wins the Oasis and his fortune, pretty much. So of course Wade goes on a mission to find these Easter eggs. What I liked about this was it's very full of 80s pop culture references and video game references, like a lot of 80s video game references. So for me, there was a lot of them I didn't really know because I was born in the 80s, like in the early 80s, but even still, like I didn't go to 80s arcades and stuff like that. I mean, I did in the 90s, but by the time I got like in the early 90s and like arcades, like the only 80s games that really still existed were the really popular ones like Galaga and like Pac-Man and stuff like that. But the early 80s ones, not so much. So a lot of them that they were talking about, I didn't know a whole bunch about, but it was still really fun. And him running around the Oasis doing stuff in all these different worlds and like the way they're set up was like really fucking cool. And it was really well done and really, the world building was really well done. It was really fun to listen to and like it felt like you were right there with them. The audiobook was not a full cast. It was read by, was it Will Wheaton? Is that his name? Will Wheaton, not Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton is the audiobook narrator. And it was really good. He did a really good job. I was really immersed. I really loved it. It was not quite 5 stars though, because of course the ending tied up with a pretty little bow. And there was a MacGuffin in there that was kind of like, okay. It happens earlier in the book and you're like, that's got to mean something. Because it was kind of out of left field. And you're like, that means something. And then it comes in at the end where it's like, that's where that is. Okay, that makes sense. And, it was fine. Like, and I'm not reading book 2 because I hear it's absolute trash. So I'm just going to leave Ready Player One as a standalone the way it should have been to begin with. But I really enjoyed it. I know I'm late to this game, but if you haven't read it, listen to it on audio. It was a really fun experience. The next book I listened to was A Gift from Lamia. She gave me an audiobook credit so that I could get this book specifically, which I did. And this was a while ago, but I finally listened to it. And that's Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. So this is YA. I don't usually do YA. We know this. But I did because she said she thought I'd like it. And the premise sounds really good. So this tells the story of a girl, what is her name? Amelia, I think. I don't know. I just remember I couldn't fucking stand her. She's a witch and she's from a family of witches. And this doesn't say when it takes place. Is it a fantasy world or is it our world? I think it's supposed to be our world. But it's very 1700s feel in the way they dress and act and shit like that. And she has a twin sister and her twin sister ends up dead. And so she's on a mission to try to figure out what happened to her sister. And in doing that, she decides to summon a demon that will be bound to her, that will help her find out what happened to her sister. And in her summoning, she accidentally summons Wrath, who is one of the 7 princes of hell. And every single prince of hell is a 7 deadly sin, pretty much. And so she summons Wrath, and then the story kind of goes from there. While I love the setup in the story is really cool. Like, her hanging out with Wrath and like all that and trying to figure out what happened to her sister. That was great. But I could not stand Amelia. And the atmosphere was amazing. The way it was written, like you felt like you were there. It was really cool the way it was written. I really enjoyed that. Very atmospheric. Could not stand Amelia. That chick was, that's her name, right? I keep saying it. I want to make sure it's her name because I couldn't fucking stand her. Yep, Amelia. Okay. Could not stand her. She's whiny. She's stupid. She's one of those dumb bitches in YA books who's like, I don't care if it's super dangerous and I have no skills. I'm going to go do it anyways. And either I'm just going to magically find my way out of it or somebody's going to come save me. And that's exactly what fucking happened. And it was just, which is annoying because she's annoying and just the decision she made. I wanted more Wrath. Wrath was Like, he's sarcastic, he's really like meh and biting, and with this being YA, there isn't really any romance. There's a lot of tension, but like nothing really happens. But Wrath, like, I liked him. Like, he's like definite YA trope, like bad boy, you know, dark backstory. Obviously, he's a prince of hell, that kind of shit, which, you know, hello, when you're the prince of hell, I mean, you're pretty much a stereotype of your own. Like, you're obviously going to be really jaded and, you know, dark bad boy, have done bad stuff in his past. Obviously, you're a fucking prince of hell, and your name, your Wrath, which is just anger and violence. Like, hello. I really liked him. The who was doing the killing was kind of like, okay, it still wasn't fully resolved. So, like, book 2, like, she's actually going to hell, apparently. There was just certain things, like, it was okay. Like, it was okay. Did I give it 3 stars? Yeah. It was okay. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't hate it. Her other books, what was it, like the Stalking Jack the Ripper, like, I tried that in DNF. This one I finished. I liked it. It was okay. Wasn't a new favorite. I do want to read book 2, because book 2 is supposed to be more new adult, which means more sexy time, stuff like that, which I don't need that in my books in order for them to be good. But this one was, the way it was set up, the atmosphere, the premise, everything. This should have never been a YA book. It should have been new adult or adult to begin with, because the setup, like the high adult content in the setup, it didn't work as a YA. It seemed very dumbed down in a lot of ways, where she could have really gone over the top with it with just the premise, because it was YA, so you can't do certain things. The next one, I guess, is new adult, but like I said, I don't need sexy times in all of my books. But if you're going to have a setup where this is a witch who summons Wrath, a prince of hell, and there's nothing that happens between them except for some witty banter, really? Like, nothing? Like, no violence, no nothing. Her trying to hit on him with her ineffectual fist does not count. So we'll see. I might read the next one. We'll see how it goes. I'm waiting for more reviews to come in. I haven't heard as much about book 2 as this one was super hyped up. But I mean, it was okay for what it was. 3 stars. Next is a book I read just to, like, as a palate cleanser, just like for funsies. And I read it in what, like an hour and a half. And that's the complete works of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. 3 books to chill your bones, by Alvin Schwartz. So this is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark 1, 2, and 3, which I read them when they first came out when in the 90s when I was a kid. I loved these books. There's only 2 stories that have ever scared me in these books. The Window, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but it's the one with the illustration of, full page illustration of the skeleton woman, with the stringy hair and stuff like that. She's the one that was buried in the basement of the haunted house, and she comes up and talks to the priest and says, if you put my finger bone in the collection plate, it'll stick to the man who killed me. That one always scared me because of the illustration. The Window is a vampire story, and that one always scared me just because of the way it was told, and the vampire was made to seem very scary. Of course, when I read these, I was like 8 or 9 years old, 7, 8, 9 years old. So, I mean, come on. But this was just a fun palate cleanser. I gave it 4 stars. I mean, or 3 stars, whatever. Either way, this was just a fun, like, revisiting my youth palate cleanser that was, you know, nothing real of merit to say about it, just that I love these and I still do. Next is a book I actually have a physical copy of. After that, I read The Wolf of Oren-Yaro by K.S. Veloso. This, I listened to an audio, of course, too. This is an indie published, I believe, trilogy. It is a complete trilogy now, and it's called The Chronicles of the Bitch Queen. And I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. So this is the story of Talion. Is that her name? Excuse the cat. This is the story of Queen Talion. So in her area, she's the queen. When she was younger, she was betrothed to somebody from another area or a clan, I think, and they were married. And right after they got married, he disappeared, and he's been gone for 5 years. And so they have a son together who is with Talion, and she gets a letter from her husband that says, here, will you meet me over here across the sea in this neutral territory, and we'll talk about shit. And she's like, okay. And so she and her people, you know, her small group of people, go over there to meet him. They meet. Chaos ensues. and the story goes from there. So the whole point of this book is that, you know, she is either trying to figure out why her husband took off and has been gone for 5 years and either bring him home or make him divorce her or, you know, something like that so they can move on. She mostly is trying to convince him to come home because the clans in their area are getting agitated. They don't like that a female's running them, even though she's doing a good job, and, you know, want him to come back and are trying to figure out why he's gone. So I don't really know how to describe this book. It's been a while since I've read it, and I remember it clearly, but without like spoiling things. And even when I filmed this the first time, I struggled to describe this book. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Talion she's a great main character. She's very, I liked that she was fighting for her territory, her area that she's queen of. That was most important to her, is keeping it all together and making sure everything is okay and not just chasing her husband. I mean, that's part of it. Like, she wants to know what the hell happened. But the one thing that bothered me about this is, like, the main reason that he left, it's kind of a mild spoiler, I guess. I don't know, like, the big focus for her is her son. Like, and that's the entire book is, I gotta get back to my son, I gotta get back to my son. Well, I do not mind badass female protagonists who are mothers. I'm a mother. I don't like it to be the sole focus. Like, if your whole reason for doing what you're doing is to get to your child, I don't care as much, which sounds terrible, but I don't. I just don't care as much. To me, that's not a plot. I like a plot that has other machinations, like, you know, political, which there is some in here. There is some political maneuvering in here. But I don't want it to be you know, my sole goal is to get to my son. And that's kind of where it's at, because she gets stranded over there in this area. Of course, there's a coup. They are attacked and everybody's spread out, and she's alone and is separated from her people. And she's got to try to find her way back to her people and to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, was it her husband that, you know, staged this coup? Was it the forces over there that are just trying to break them up? Like, what's going on? So that part I liked, and what happens to her in between I liked. She meets a thief who helps her. That part I liked. They become good friends. That was great. She meets a couple other friends along the way. Found family-ish. That's great. But her sole focus is, I need to figure out what happened to my husband to see if he's dead or alive or if he had something to do with this. And I need to get back to my son. I need to get back to my son. It's like, it pulls me out of the story when that's part of her monologue all the time. It did. It really pulled me out. And I'm not a huge fan of using kids as a plot device to help move the story forward. I don't know. It just, you never even met the kid. Even at the beginning. Oh, I think you meet him for like 5 seconds. So I don't know. That part, like, just kind of bothered me, but I loved the story. I mean, it was 4 stars. That's why I didn't give it 5. I really enjoyed the thief. I cannot remember his name. It's not on the back, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me. But I really enjoyed his character. He was really fun and kind. There is this, like, psychotic character in here that is just like, what is going on? That is really fun to kind of be around, even though he's like cuckoo and like out there. But this was a really fun book. I'm excited to read books 2 and 3. Book 2 is on audio. Book 3 is not yet. And I kind of want to wait to read book 2 until book 3 comes out on audio, because I really enjoyed the audiobook for this. I think you can only get it on Audible, but I really did enjoy this, as much as I was like kind of griping. I really did enjoy this. This, I guess, has a lot of Filipino lore and history, I believe. And I enjoyed that, like, because you don't see that a lot especially in fantasy, and it was really well done. And the writing is great. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I'm not doing this book justice. Just like in the first instance, I don't feel like I'm doing it justice. This is a great book. It's a great series. Give it a try if you haven't. If you love female-led fantasies where she's a badass, but she's earned it. Like, she's not the one where she just shows up and everything's great. I mean, she worked her ass off to get to where she was. You know, when she's one of those ones that when she was growing up, when she was wearing the pretty dresses, she was secretly training so that she knew how to fight. Her dad very much wanted her to be strong. So again, like, if you like the really tough female lead characters with you know, a strong story. Like, it's got a really good found family. It's got a really good, like, moving around the world a little bit. Some crazy kooky characters in there too. I highly recommend it. It was a great book, and I can't read book 2. I can't talk today, obviously. I feel like I didn't do this book justice. Just go pick it up if you're interested. Okay, next we're going to talk about a book that I fucking DNF'd, and I cannot stand it. I finished, what did I do? I listened to about 10-15% of it, and that's Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesher Anchor. This book was trash. Do not recommend it. This is probably one of the most pretentious books I think I've ever read in a really long time. She can't write. Plain and simple. Yeah, this book was trash. This is the story of a man who he's divorced from his wife. He has 2 teenage kids, and they're sharing custody. And then one day his wife drops off their kids for a visit and then never comes back. And they're trying to figure out what happened to her. Yeah, this book is mostly about how the main character, Toby, just wants to get his dick wet. And not in a fun way. Not in a fun, like, sexy erotica or fantasy romance kind of way. And this is in a creepy middle-aged man, you know, with money, trying to see who's not conventionally attractive, trying to see how many young, hot things he can fuck because it makes his ego feel better. I really don't want to read about that. Like, the way he's described, and I'm not trying to be, like, a hater, but he describes himself as a stereotypical short, I think he says he's like 5'5", like short, average looking Jewish doctor, because he is Jewish, I believe. That's how he describes himself. But then on the other hand, talks about how he's using all of these dating apps and how all these super hot young 20-somethings just want to fuck him. And it's like, okay, dude, that doesn't make sense. I mean, it does if they're gold digging. I mean, because most hot 20-somethings don't want guys old enough to be their daddy unless they want a sugar daddy. I mean, that's just reality. There aren't many young 20-something women who are genuinely attracted to 40, 50-something-year-old guys. I mean, it does happen, but it's rare. I'm sorry, bud. And, like, so all he talks about is all the different sex he's had with all these different women and how he's irritated that his children are there because that means he can't get his dick sucked tonight. Like, this is supposed to be some kind of profound literary fiction, and all it really was just this guy talking about getting his dick wet. And it's like, how, this is not profound at all. I mean, I guess I didn't give it that much of a chance, but I was tired of listening to him talk about how everybody wants him. And nobody does, dude. Nobody likes you. DNF. This was trash. Do not recommend. Next, I finally finished the behemoth that is Crescent City, or House of Earth and Blood. Crescent City, book 1 by Sarah J. Maas. I have been reading this for a year. I started this last year, got about halfway through it and got bored. And so I set it down, and then it's now taking me about that long to finish it. So I think I started this originally in like March, June last year. And it's taking me till now to finish it. So I gave this 4 stars, but that was being generous. It's more like a 3.5. This is her first adult series. So I don't even know how to describe this book. Should I just like direct you to Becca's videos where she can like accurately describe like the synopsis of this book? Because there's just so much. And I know this is like her favorite book in series ever, and I feel bad because I love ACOTAR, and Throne of Glass is alright, still haven't finished it, but ACOTAR is my favorite of Sarah J. Maas's so far. This is good. This isn't bad. This just should have had 350 pages cut out of the middle. This is an 800-page book that didn't need to be 800 pages. This has a lot of filler. This is about Bryce, who is half fae, half human in this world where humans and paranormal creatures like coexist together. This is another world in her multiverse. Like Sarah J. Maas has said that all of her Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, and Crescent City, they're all connected. They're just in different worlds in the same like multiverse. Becca, I believe, has a video coming out on Sunday about all the theories on that. But it's mentioned in a couple for other books, like there's connections. So, okay, God, I can't even describe this book. Like, Becca's probably laughing at me, making fun of me right now. But It's like, what do I say that's not too spoilery? So Bryce is a half human, half fae person who lives in Crescent City, who works at an art gallery dealer she works for this witch who deals in like artifacts and shit like that. There's a bunch of murders going around the city that's happened often. That didn't even make sense. There's a bunch of murders happening around the city. Bryce was close to one of the murders, and so the archangel who runs the city has tasked her to help him, or help figure out what's happening and why these murders are taking place. And so he assigns this angel called Hunt to like babysit her and to help her figure out what's going on. And the story goes from there. That's pretty basic, non-spoilery I can do. So, yeah, the whole middle of this was boring as fuck. So the beginning is interesting. Like, you meet Bryce, you meet her friends. There's this big tragedy that happens to her. You witness that with her, what she goes through. The other murders start happening. Hunt shows up. You meet him and you start to realize he's got a pretty tragic backstory. You start learning about that and it's like, okay. And then the middle is just, it's like a huge snooze fest. It's just Bryce and Hunt wandering around Crescent City, not really doing anything. They're trying to solve the murders, but they're just wandering around, like talking to people. And I don't know if this was like a lazy way of world building, info dumping, meeting new characters that are going to be in the other books down the line. And we're going to introduce them to you now in this really boring way so that it looks natural. I don't know if that was it or what, but I mean, I was bored. That's why I put it down. And I loved like the Court of Mist and Fury and Court of Wings of Ruin and Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR. I read those books in a week, an entire week. Less than a week. I think it was 5 days I read all 3 of those books. I binged them. I couldn't put them down. So fast-paced, amazing. And Court of Mist and Fury and Court of Wings and Ruin are not short books. They're pretty big. Same with the Court of Silver Flames. Breezed through that. Absolutely loved it. The middle of this book could have been cut out. It was boring as fuck. I don't even remember what happened in the middle of this book. I remember bits and pieces, but it's inconsequential to the story. So it doesn't even really matter. I mean, if this stuff comes up later, okay, fine, then I'll just check the wiki fandom or something like that. If it's some small detail that she threw in that 350-page middle slog. So you got all the good shit in the beginning where you're getting introduced and you're meeting everybody and like, okay, then you got the boring middle and then the end is just boom, so fast. Like so fucking fast. Now, did you mean for the ending to go super fast and end like that? Or should you have maybe started that progression a little bit earlier instead of boring us for 300 pages? That would have been better. Also, the blue balls, man. Like, this is supposed to be adult. Okay, ACOTAR is supposed to be like young adult, new adult maybe. And they're boning all over the fucking place. Like, explicit, like, getting down. This is adult. And you're not going to have Hunt and Bryce, like, get it on? Like, and if she does her fucking bait and switch bullshit, I'm going to be pissed. I like Bryce as a character. I like Hunt as a character. I like them both. I didn't have a problem with either of them. I liked them. I just wanted them to fuck because they needed to. And there was a couple of scenes where the tension's really good. And see, this is where Becca's going to get mad at me because she loves the angst and the tension and the long, drawn out, like, drama angst of it. I don't mind it, but it doesn't need to go on for 800 pages. Especially when it's clear these are both consenting adults. It's clear they both have the fucking hots for each other. Just fucking bone already. Which I guess they're going to in the next one. Or there's going to be sex in the next one. And I'm trying not to be a thirsty, greedy bitch, but that just bothered me. The blue balls bothered me. And the rushed ending bothered me. Yeah, I'm going to be reading the second one. I enjoyed it. I like the world. I like the story. I like the characters. I'm curious to see where it's going to go. It's just the middle part of this was so boring and hard to get through. And I feel bad saying that. And that's why it took me so long to finish it. But I'm still going to continue. I'm not a huge Sarah J. Maas stan, not like Becca level, but I'm still a fan. I'm still going to read her shit. It's just like those middle 300 pages we could have done without. Sorry. Okay, next I listened to an audiobook that I just kind of picked up on a whim, and it's called The Last Book on the Left, Stories of Murders and Mayhem from History's Most Notorious Serial Killers. So this is from the guys who do the podcast, The Last Podcast on the Left. They do a lot of true crime horror podcasty stuff, I guess. Apparently they're one of the biggest podcasts there is. I've just never listened to them. And after listening to this book, I don't know if I will. I gave this book 3 stars. It wasn't bad. So this is all about serial killers that we all know, like everybody's heard of: Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, the Night Stalker, Ed Gein. I was like, what am I? So all these ones that we know. So the premise of this is that they talk about each serial killer, and there's 3 guys. There's one guy who he does all the research. So he's done all the extensive research on the serial killers and like their backgrounds, how they grew up, how they became serial killers, their trials, the whole 9 yards. He's the narrator. He's the one telling you what's happened step by step and talks about him. And he's fantastic. Like, he did his research very, very well. It's very clear that he did amazing research, and there was stuff in there that I hadn't heard before with some of these serial killers. Then you have the 2 other guys, and their whole job, their whole point is just to interject while the other guy is telling the story with weird, funny little quips that, you know, it's supposed to make it a little bit more lighthearted. It was just weird. Some of the quips I found that were kind of funny, and others were just annoying. And it was just like, okay, are you 5? Like, my kid could have made a better joke than that. Like, it was, you know what I mean? Like, so it wasn't great. Like, now, if you cut out the 2 guys with the quips and it was just the one guy, like, giving the story, that would have been amazing. Like, he was great. I really liked him. But it was like, it was fun to listen to. I listened to it in like a day. It wasn't bad. So 3 stars. Okay, 2 more to go. So the next one I read was the latest Lisa Jewell, and that's called The Night She Disappeared. So this came out, I got this is a book of the month extra. It wasn't a pick. It's just a Thrills and Chills extra. This came out in 2021. I don't remember when. Because I don't remember it coming out. I just remember it showing up on Book of the Month and I had to have it. So this is her latest one, and I enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. So this has dual timelines like Lisa Jewell always has. Only this dual timeline is only a year apart, so they're both present day-ish. One's just a year ahead. So this tells the story of Tallulah and Zach, and Tallulah and Zach they were together in high school, or yeah, high school. I mean, this takes place in Britain, so I don't know in the UK. I forgot like their terminology, but they've been together since high school. Tallulah gets pregnant and has a baby at 18, because I believe she's 19 in present day. Like, so she has a baby at 18, and her and Zach decide to like try to remain together and raise their baby. And they go out one night. Tallulah's mom said she'd watch the baby, who I believe is 8 or 10 months. And so that they can go out, because they're 19, so they can go out and go to the pub and like have a good time and enjoy being 19 years old and kind of get a break from their son. And then they never come home. So that's the whole point of the story. Like, where are Tallulah and Zach? Where did they go? And so you have the past timeline, which is Tallulah's point of view, and it shows, it's a year prior, and it shows what she does leading up to the day that she disappears, which, you know, that you don't get to that day till almost the end of the book. And then the present timeline has this woman named Sophie, whose boyfriend is the new head teacher at this private school. So he gets to live on this cottage on the property. And so she's moving into that. And she's a writer of like detective stories, like cozy detective stories. And their cottage is backed up to these woods. And so she's going for a walk in the woods, and she finds this tree with a sign on it that says "dig here." So she does, and it starts to unravel like what happened to Tallulah and Zach. This was a really good book. I really liked it. Again, Lisa Jewell is getting darker with her stories. This is definitely a lot darker than some of her earlier works that I've read. It's not as dark, I don't think, as The Family Upstairs, but it's kind of there. It's pretty good. Was the ending kind of unbelievable and had to suspend your disbelief? A little bit, yeah. But it was still kind of also believable. There was enough reality mixed into it that I could find it believable in a very special circumstance. I guess I'll just put it that way. But I really liked it. I did. I can't wait for her next, I believe her next book is the sequel to The Family Upstairs. I'm excited for that one. But I highly recommend this if you like Lisa Jewell. If you want to give her a try, just know that this is one of her darker ones a little bit. Of course, there is trigger warnings for death. And I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. I mean, there is a death in here. And it's not gory. Like, she's not a gory writer. Most of her dark shit is more mental or emotional abuse kind of thing. There is a little bit of domestic violence and emotional abuse in here too. But I really enjoyed it. It was fun trying to figure out what happened to Tallulah and Zach. And once you find out, you're just kind of like, ugh, okay. But it was good. It was good. I liked the way it wrapped up, even if it was a little bit too tidy for my taste, which Lisa Jewell kind of tends to do a little bit. I mean, her endings are tidy, but usually there's a little bit of mess. And that's how this was. It was a nice ending, but there was still a little messiness in there. But I highly recommend it. 4 stars. Okay, the last book that I read in the month of December, book 11, was The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. This is his memoir. I gave it 4 stars. I fully expected to give this 5 stars, and I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because he didn't talk about things that I wanted him to talk about, and that kind of, I can't say it pissed me off, but it kind of irritated me, and it was just weird. So this, okay, first of all, I love Dave Grohl. He's one of my favorite humans. I absolutely love the Foo Fighters, where is it? Oh, right here. There's a Foo Fighters tattoo right there. There's lyrics right here that's from them. I have a tattoo of theirs on my leg. And the writing that's right here is also Foo Fighters lyrics. So I love the Foo Fighters, okay? I love Dave Grohl. And this was not bad. I listened to it on audio. Dave Grohl narrates it. If you're going to read this, listen to it. He is fantastic as a narrator. He jokes around in there and like makes, silly voices and shit, which makes it fun. Like when he talks about breaking his leg on stage and like the doctor looks at it, like it was like a doctor in, was it Sweden? I think it was in Sweden or something like that. But the way he made the doctor sound made it sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was hilarious. It was good. And I adore Dave Grohl. Please listen to it if you're going to read it. His voice is very calming and just smooth, and it's easy to fall into. It was really nice to listen to. Why I didn't give it 5 stars. So it starts at the beginning of his life. I mean, he kind of jumps around a little bit, which can be kind of jarring because most memoirs, they start at like the beginning of their life and then they work their way through until like present day. He does that, but he also jumps around a little bit. So he'll be telling at the beginning of his life, and then it was towards the beginning, and then he talked about breaking his leg, which happened in 2018, I think, something like that. So then he starts talking about that, which you were just talking about you at like 14. Now you're talking about breaking your leg in your 40s. Like, whoa, that was a jump. So, I mean, it's kind of jarring, but then he goes right back to the story. But he was very descriptive on how he grew up, how his mom pretty much raised him on her own and with his sibling, and like how he got into music. This memoir is very much about music and Dave's relationship with music, 100%, more than it is about his life story. I mean, it is about his life story, but it's very much about his relationship with music and how much it affects him and how much he loves it in his life. That's what this is about more than anything else. Though he's very detailed about his early life and like how he got started in a band. The one major thing that was not in here that really upset me, that I was like, why the fuck aren't you talking about this, is how he formed the Foo Fighters. Like, I'm sitting here going, excuse me, what, sir? Like, he talks about how he joined Nirvana and how that happened. How that was just kind of like a happenstance kind of thing. He doesn't spend much time on Nirvana, though. He talks about how him and Kurt were roommates. He talks about touring with Nirvana and what the experience was like, playing in small clubs and stuff like that. He talks about the making of Nevermind a little bit. He does not talk about Kurt very much. I mean, he does, but not very much. He's very respectful of that. He talks about Kurt's death, but he doesn't talk about it a lot. He talks about like where he was when he found out, like how it affected him, and how, you know, it meant like, oh shit, we were just getting started and now it's over. He doesn't really talk about Kurt all that much. He does touch on the fact that Kurt was a heroin addict. He mentions it briefly and how he didn't know that he was an addict. So you get a little bit, but it's not like the juicy Nirvana tell-all. It's not that. But then it transitions from that into how the first Foo Fighters record was made. Well, which if you didn't know, like, you know, factoid here, I guess, which I knew this before reading the book. The first Foo Fighters album, Dave Grohl did everything himself. He played every single instrument and sang. He did it all himself. And he talks about the reason he did that was to help try to get over his grief of losing Kurt. So that's why he did it. And he explains that. Great. But then we just go into other things. Like, he doesn't talk about how he met the other guys in the band. He briefly mentions meeting, I believe, is it the bass player or one of the guitar players? It's not Pat Smear. I can't remember. Is it Chris Shiflett? I believe it was, yeah. I believe it was him he's talking about. He's telling another story about something else and then briefly mentions, oh yeah, this is the first time I met him, who is one of the main guys of the Foo Fighters, and then goes on. But he doesn't talk about how they formed as a band. He talks about meeting how he knew Taylor, who's the drummer, and Taylor used to drum for Alanis Morissette. He talks about how at one point Alanis Morissette had said to Taylor, you know, what are you going to do when Dave asks you to join the Foo Fighters? But he doesn't talk about how they all became a band. Like, he talks about how one of the albums, like, he quickly moves through the albums that they made. Like, and then we were making this one, and then this one, but he doesn't talk about a lot of the creative process of it, which I was kind of shocked. I was like, Foo Fighters is your bread and butter, man. Like, that is your legacy. I mean, yeah, you are the drummer for Nirvana, but he made the point, like, if he didn't have the Foo Fighters, he would have just always been known as that guy from Nirvana. And I was kind of bummed that he didn't talk about how he formed his band. You know, hello, you guys they've been a band for almost over 20 years now. It's like, you're not talking about how you guys got together and how you've remained together. And like, okay, that kind of bummed me out. That was what I wanted the most, is like the story of the Foo Fighters and how they became a band from his words, because he was the brainchild. He's the one that started it. Like, he's patient zero on that. Like, I don't know. That kind of bothered me. He does not talk about how he met his wife. He does mention her briefly. He does talk a lot about his daughters, and what they mean to him and their bonds about certain things. But 99% of this book is about Dave's relationship with music and how it has affected him his entire life and shit like that. It is not a bad book by any means. It was a great book. I'm so glad I listened to it. You have to listen to it. If you love Dave Grohl, give it a listen. It's really good. You don't want to miss it if you love Dave Grohl or the Foo Fighters. It's really good. I was just a little disappointed, so I only gave it 4 stars instead of 5. Okay, guys, that's it. That is my January wrap up. This is my 3rd clip, so the other 2 are already set to go. So this one's actually gonna make it on YouTube, hopefully. God, I feel like such an idiot. But yes, please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. What did you guys read in January? Again, I am sorry this is so late. I got sick. This is my 2nd time filming it. Otherwise, it would have been up 2 days ago. So, you know, and I'm sorry I sound like shit. I'm sorry if you can hear my fan in the background. I'm sorry if the angle's all changed. I'm just a mess, and I'm just trying to get this out at this point because I don't want to film it a 3rd time. But yes, I'm sorry. Again, this is late, and Jamie, you should probably be happy. This is probably going to be close to an hour. So, okay, but that's it. I'm done talking now. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.